Hello everyone. It's quite late right now. To be specific, it is 10:17 p.m. That may seem pretty early for some of you, but for me it is near my bedtime. So I decided today that I would read a story. It is quite natural to read before going to sleep. So I hope you enjoy listening to me read a bedtime story. Let's get into the video. This story is called Drunken Butler by Paradise Purple 120. The summary says, after ordering Sebastian Michaelis to drink 50 gallons of catnip tequila, Ciel is strapped on one hell of a ride and learns that demons and alcohol do not mix well. Even worse, Sebastian has made the worst impression a butler could put on. Will all things go well in the end, or will it fall into disaster? Can Ciel handle it, or will he fall into insanity? I thought this was a quite an interesting little summary, so we are going to read this story, Drunken Butler. Ciel Phantomhive, looking bored out of his skull in his study, watched his perfect butler, Sebastian Michaelis, the best in all of England, if you don't need your soul, cutting his cake. He had been bored for several days now, with no received letters or orders by the Queen, and had been stuck doing painful hours of violin practices and dancing lessons that made him look like a complete idiot. You didn't need to include the complete idiot part. Ciel sipped his tea and sighed at the fact that today was just another ordinary day at the Phantomhive Manor. I have a feeling that is going to change. Master, his butler said, breaking the silence, is something on your mind? Ciel looked up and gave him his usual detached face. That sentence sounds as if I took my face off and handed it to Sebastian. It should be my usual emotionless face. But moving on. It's nothing, he responded. Of course, a lot of things can happen in Ciel's thoughts, with his parents' murder and being the Queen's guard dog as his duty. However, something else was happening. For the first time, he wasn't focused on his job. He was simply affected by the bored-to-death plague. Sebastian smiled with amusement, seeing his young master's unnatural behavior. He placed the dessert, oh yummy, on his desk and prepared to leave when he was suddenly stopped by Ciel's words. I'm a little curious, the boy began with his chin resting on his fingers. He had an idea, a shocking one, that could both ruin and make his day. I'm not a very adventurous person, but I'm very curious as to what fictional me is going to say next. Since you are a demon, I suppose you can do just about anything. Am I wrong? Sebastian put his white-gloved hand on his crest. Of course not. I exist only to fulfill your orders. Anything you ask for, consider it done. Ciel cocked a smile, as though he figured his butler knew what he was hinting. All he had to do now was take charge. Are you ready for my order? He asked without hesitation. Sebastian nodded, prepared for anything. This is so dramatic and hyping up for the climax. Go into the storage room and drink the tequila until you are heavily intoxicated. Is that understood? Now, in reality, I would never ask Sebastian to do this, or rather I would never order Sebastian to do this. Because if my strongest guardian is intoxicated, who is going to protect me? I need protecting. I need to be protected. That should be pretty clear. Anyway. Sebastian raised an eyebrow, surprised at what he had just heard. Where is this going, my lord? He asked with a slight hint of interest. He never imagined Ciel asking such a thing without a second thought. The boy stood from his desk chair and turned his gaze back. The boy stood from his desk chair and turned his back to gaze out the window where Pluto slept soundly near the gardens. So late at night that I am having a hard time reading. I actually yawned. Oh. Ridiculous it may sound, but I imagined if normal people could be affected by alcohol, then with demons it could do the same. But I'm not exactly sure, so that's why you will test it and prove my theory. I don't think that would be a problem for you to handle. 50 shots should be enough. He heard a chuckle, and it came from Sebastian. Ciel turned his head and faced him sharply. "What's so funny?" he snapped. "Oh, it's nothing, sir. It's just that it seems to be a rather forward question. To me it seems more of an order than a question, Sebastian. Please make sure you know the difference between the two." Ciel narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" Sebastian smiled, and his eyes curved to make his cute kitty face, the kind he does right before the moment he kills someone. "Ah, I see. I know exactly what expression you're talking about. Well, I should warn you, Master. If I were to obey that order, you may not feel rather comfortable." He lowered his voice a little. "I can in fact become rather strange, and I'm certain you would not want to see that," he warned with a smile. Ciel frowned at him. "Sebastian, I thought you knew better not to question my orders. When I make an order, I make it clear. Do you need me to repeat it for you?" As expected, Sebastian knelt before him politely. "Of course not, my lord. That's what I thought." He walked out of the room, leaving Ciel grinning to himself. His day was about to become interesting. It has become quite interesting. I'm intrigued. The storage room appeared more like an abandoned attic when Sebastian entered through the door, each of the tiny corners filled with spiderwebs and dust all over the roof of the shelves. This room hasn't been used for a while, for 2 years, actually. Sebastian skimmed his eyes along the stacks of bottled beverages and spotted the catnip tequilas hard to find in the dark. I can't read. But not for him, of course. He sighed, regretting for what would result in this, and twisted the lid from the bottle. The smell of the alcohol appealed to his nose, and he pressed his lips to the rim of the bottle, drinking the tequila like his master ordered. In a second, the bottle was empty. However, Sebastian felt completely normal. He tried again with another bottle, gulping it down twice as fast, and again with a third. "Sebastian, I think you're an alcoholic." Sebastian felt his head slightly spin, and his knowledge fading, but that wasn't enough. He needed to be completely wasted like a hobo on the street. So he continued drinking and drinking, like it was the easiest task in the world. As I said, he's an alcoholic at this point, until his feet were surrounded by shattered empty bottles. You could have at least cleaned up the bottles, Sebastian. His body began wobbling, and he fell against a shelf, which slowly tipped over and crashed into the ground. Ciel heard the noise in his study, surely not pleased with the fact that he had been interrupted. He figured it came from the servants, maybe Bard trying out his dynamite method again, or Finny accidentally breaking a statue weighing 10 times his own weight. It could even be clumsy Mayrin tripping over her shoelace and destroying another fragile tea set. It's depressing that these are everyday occurrences at this point. Or even worse, all the three together. Ciel stared at the ticking clock. Already 5:15, and dinner preparations weren't made yet. Oh dear, I need my food. I'm a cranky and hungry child. He twiddled with the end of his tie, when suddenly it became loose. Oh dear God, I don't know how to dress myself. I need help to tie back my tie. My only trusted servant is drunk out of his mind. He sighed in frustration. Oh, I just sighed in real life. When he attempted to retie it, but he just looked as hopeless as ever. It was time to send him in. Quite dramatic. Sebastian struggled to get up, and managed to support himself while staggering slowly to the door. He didn't need to open it. It already flung open, and there stood Finny and Bard with a shocked look on their faces. "Oi, Sebastian, you look terrible," Bard said with a cigarette in his mouth. "He better not light the house on fire again. The shelves are made of wood." He looked at Finny, who simply stared at the butler with wide eyes. "Maybe you should rest, Sebastian," he suggested. "You look a bit tired." "That is my best Finian impression, thank you very much. Sebastian waved his hand in the air. "Oh no, everything's fine. I don't need to rest," he said in a slightly slurred tone. "Are you sure?" Yes, he answered, smacking playfully on Finny's back, leaving a confused expression on the gardener's face. I would be confused as well if a demon man playfully smacked me on the back. Mayrin came in with a cracked lens on her glasses and jumped when she found Sebastian swaying with a smile. That is quite a fearsome sight, I agree with that. Sebastian, are you alright?" she asked. Suddenly, Sebastian approached her and embraced her tightly. Oh dear. "Mayrin, my dear Mayrin," he murmured and landed a firm kiss on her lips. "How are you, my dear?" The maid didn't answer. I didn't think she would. She froze with her face as red as Grell's hair. Sebastian released her and made his way out of the room. Bard and Finny both looked at each other and knew that this was a side they had never seen before. Mayrin just fainted. And that is the end of the first chapter of Drunken Butler. Alright, it is my bedtime now. I'm getting quite tired. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but it's hard to think when I'm tired. I hope you enjoyed listening to me read this first chapter. If you would like me to read the second chapter, then please let me know by liking this video and commenting if you want part 2 of this, or if you want to see something else. I know I'm not the best narrator, so I hope I did okay and that this video was enjoyable. But self-confidence issues aside, thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more Ciel related content, then please be sure to subscribe to my channel to stay updated on when I upload next. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye and good night.